Good morning, everyone. And there's our current story, the Azores High sitting there, influencing the three boats at the front of the fleet, which is kind of interesting in its own way. And it's the 13th of April, and it's overcast and raining and windy here in the Sub-Delone. And it's all sorts of weather for the whole fleet. So, anyway, a couple of things. First of all, we had interesting statistic. We have quite a solid following on our on the GGR through social media and also the website. The website's on fire. We get about 800,000 hits on average every day, which is quite substantial, really. We're very happy about that. So there's an inherent following, more so even on the Facebook and YouTube. And when Ian was in trouble, it was running at 1.75 million hits a day, which is incredible. I mean, it was a big story, of course, but it's quite interesting to see how far the GGR is actually going. I think there's a lot of what would you say, latent GGR followers that are just learning a lot from it and all the rest of it. So thanks for all the support there. So if you are one of those and you're on Facebook and you haven't liked and shared, try and do it. We've just gone over 60,000 now, which is kind of good. I know there's a lot more than that out there watching, so so that would be good. Same for YouTube. We're down to 5 boats on the water now, heading to La Sable-d'Olonne, so we have a bit more time on this data report to a degree. So I think we'll just pick up now. If you've got any questions specific to this report, if you put them in the comments, I'll come back at the end of every one now and just answer. I'll quickly scan through the comments, and if you've got a question, I'll try and answer that and before we switch off. We are scheduled to talk to Ian today, sometime later this afternoon. And we'll put that call up on SoundCloud. We're not sure how long it'll last. The captain of the ship has very generously letting him use the ship's satellite phone. The company have okayed that. And he gets 1 call a day, and we're not sure how long it'll last or the quality. Yesterday, he called. I was on a Zoom call, and Jane took the call. It was very sketchy quality, but we'll keep our fingers crossed on that. The main news was that he hasn't scuttled the boat. I think we mentioned that before. It was a bit of a very fast rather than dramatic, but it was also probably dramatic. We'll find out about that. The evacuation, Ian didn't know it was turning up. Or he knew it was coming, but they arrived a little bit earlier than expected, and they didn't give a call on the VHF. So I'm imagining, just my imagination, he may not have even seen the ship approaching until all of a sudden he heard them or something like that. They didn't call him on the radio, which is what he would have been waiting for. And then it was a dramatic rush to get out and so on. Anyway, we'll listen to Ian's words on that today. So that's what's going on there. Now, back on the tracker, the first thing I'm going to do is head down to the leaderboard and just have a look at what's going on. And interestingly, Kirsten is still in the lead, which is fantastic. She's currently got 1,900 nautical miles to go to La Sable-d'Olonne, hanging on by the skin of her teeth, with Abelish behind her at 1,970 nautical miles. So she's about 66 miles, I think, if my maths right, something like that, in the lead. And Captain Goog got 2,970 nautical miles to go. So the ETAs may be looking pretty right at the moment. ETA suggested for Kirsten around about the 30th of April, and that's sort of where I'm predicting as well. We've been saying the last week of April, but I'm now saying the last few days of April. And Abelish, a day behind. Let's wait and see. It could be a day in front or a day or two in front. Who knows? And Captain Goog, that's probably about right as well. Somewhere, 10 days behind the fleet. That's about where he is at the moment. So if you're planning to come to La Sable-d'Olonne, that's looking pretty reasonable now. And if you want to be here, make absolutely certain you just add a couple of days forward and enjoy the beach here at La Sable-d'Olonne, even though it's a windy, crazy day today. It's the weather's getting pretty good, and the beach is shining. So that's all kind of fun. In Chichester class now, Simon's got 1,814 nautical miles to go, and Jeremy's got 4,000 to go. We've got the tracker still on for Puffin. Okay, she's still drifting, and some people can use that as an avoidance tactic if they know the boat's out there. So anyway, that's who knows what's going to happen to the boat yet, but she's still afloat. We'll talk to Ian about how it was left, if it was buttoned up or whatever. I'm not sure. So we'll look forward to speaking to him then. Okay, so out of that one, the other interesting one is if we come across here and look at, I'll decrease the size of it here. Where are we? Oh, too far. But no, Batesia's tied the knot with his course, and he's on his way to Tahiti right now, going pretty well, doing 4.3 knots. And, funniest time of the year when he did that, it was, literally going through winter. On the delayed start sequence, assuming Sir Robin started on September the 4th, the same as our fleet, he actually got around Cape Horn on 10th of April, about 3 days ago. So, and Guy is up around here somewhere at the moment, got some good following breezes, and he's having a reasonable ride. You can follow his tracker you can get onto his Facebook page, then go across to his website, and you can follow his track from there. And we talk about him on Fridays and put the plot up and everything. So right now, let's have a look at what's going on the water. Jeremy is making pretty reasonable progress, definitely in the trades, 6.2 knots. Had a good chat with him yesterday. He was laughing a bit and talking about all sorts of things, so you can copy that on the SoundCloud. And he made 103 nautical miles in the day, so he's absolutely in the trades now. And it seems pretty reasonable strength. He's probably got 15 to 20 knots there. And if we put the trades there, it's only 1,000 miles, so it's still been a short trade wind hop. Sometimes it starts way down here, so he's had to earn his northing quite substantially, and he's happy to be there. He's focused now on the various stages, getting up to the equator first and going from there. And this is going to be pretty boring forward here, so we'll jump the forward. Still trade winds coming from the east. In fact, there's a bit of north in that, softening off a bit, but generally looking okay for the next 2 or 3 days. And this is pretty encouraging for him, but he's got a way to go. 1,000 miles is going to take him about, I said 1,000 miles. It's going to take him about a week, maybe a bit longer if it goes soft before he gets up here. But this is a great time to cross over now. If someone was there, you've got a nice breeze coming through. The doldrums basically don't exist. So that would have been good. Okay, so back to Captain Goog. In the trades, hooting along, 5.1 knots, falling away a fair bit because he's definitely got the northeaster there, and that might not hook for a while. So he's not holding high at the moment. He's taking it easy. Wind on the beam, getting used to a new format, pushing into the waves. And what usually happens, they start off and they go, oh, this is ugly because the water all over the boat, 15, 20 knots on the nose. So they relax a bit. But as soon as they start heading out here, they start thinking, oh, hang on, I've got to get north. And they'll harden up a bit because they're getting used to it. They've worked out how to settle into the boat with that new motion and so on. And for us, we'll decide very soon, if I look at this, very soon exactly where we'll give Goog his time penalty. We try and do it in a consistent wind zone, and usually these trades are where it's at. So it'll be sometime in the days ahead. We'll send him a note to spend 4 hours not going forward. Weather-wise, for Goog coming through, if we just push this through, okay, it's going light. You can see overall the trades have opened up a bit, not a lot of pressure. And then it comes back again, about midnight. It's 36 hours out, and this is the second day out. You've still got good breeze where he is here, but it's certainly getting light up the top there. We'd expect to keep making his 100, 120 mile days, maybe even a bit more, without any surprises. It's good to see the green without any red. That's kind of nice. Okay, up to the other guys. We had a good chat with Kirsten yesterday. She was in top form, promising to speak and say good day in Finnish on the next call. I'll hold her to that. She speaks a few languages, and she's holding north a bit better now. Her course has come around a bit as the wind is swinging. And it was a pretty good move to go for speed and keep the boat comfortable in the last 36 hours. She's made pretty good ground, doing 6.5 knots at the moment, 112 nautical miles in the day. Simon's doing 5.5 knots. He's coming to this soft zone, not much wind there. And Abelish doing 5.2. And he's crossed to the other side. That's the big thing here. You can clearly see the northeasterly here that starts to hook around. So Kirsten's starting to experience an east-northeasterly, and during the day, that'll probably go to east, and that'll allow her to come around the same as Simon did. Simon, as he goes forward, he's going to come into this soft zone with lighter winds and start to slow down a bit. And Abelish, if you can hold this, depending on what's going to happen when we move the weather forward, he's going to start rocketing, if he can hold onto that side. But will he be able to do it? It's all being driven by this Azores high, which is now moving out to the east. That's exactly what they do. It's come up right over the top of the Azores, and now it's going through. So we'll toggle this through, and we'll see exactly what happens here. So 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's about 6 hours. Abolish is looking very good. Kirsten's got a nice breeze that's starting to hook. So she'll come around, and that's interesting because they can have a drag race if they're both going the same direction, and that would then put Abolish in relative terms only not very far ahead of it as well. I shouldn't talk about this yet because we haven't seen the weather progressing forward, but you could say then on the course, not the rum line back to Les Sables d'Olonne, on the course, it puts it something like that, because they can both converge over time to the same spot. So that puts him about 150 miles ahead. That's a bit over a day. And remembering the time penalties, time compensations that go play out yet, and that puts them neck and neck on the course, even though it's already showing on the leaderboard that they're neck and neck. This might sound crazy for if you're not a sailor, but basically the rum line is measuring back to Les Sables d'Olonne in a direct line. But on the course, you can't sail direct anywhere. You got to follow the weather. So you got to go here, there, everywhere else. So this is what you call the relative position, who's in front on the course. I don't know whether that makes sense, but anyway. So we'll get rid of that again and keep moving the weather forward. Hit that, and we'll bring it forward to the next day. So it'll be 24 hours out. Now you can see here, we've got this soft area opening up in the weather where it's light blue. That's less wind, and there is bright green and orange. This is a good breeze, but Abolish is holding it. Simon's still in it, a little bit softer, and Kirsten's starting to approach the soft zone as she's going forward. So there's 24 hours now. That's near enough to 24 hours. So if I lift this up, we'll just get a relative slot on this. Now you can all see what generally is happening. 24 hours from now, Kirsten is going to be, let's see, she's going to be still in it. She'll probably be something like that, right on top of where Simon is now. So she's going to be just in this soft zone, but she's held the breeze reasonably well. In fact, I don't think she'll get that far. She'll probably only be 100 miles. So somewhere there. Abolish is going to be up here. He's in the good stuff. Plenty of breeze, all from behind. He'll be doing 7s and maybe even higher. And Simon's going to be average bits and pieces in between the two. So that's kind of interesting. We'll keep it going here. That's day 1. And day 2 now, you can see Abolish is still holding the breeze there. Simon will hold the breeze. He's up here. Kirsten is only going to be about here. She's going to stop. Okay, so midway through the second day, it's likely that she may stop. Okay, and Simon will just be drifting along, and Abolish should be, depends where he goes. If he starts to hook around, and I believe he will, he'll aim straight for the Azores, which is here. So if that's the case, if he keeps hooking around and heading for the Azores, then he will still be in the breeze. If he keeps going north, he'll run out. Okay, that's the reality. So Kirsten and Abolish have got some choices to make, and that will have major ramifications for the future. All right, this is where it's all happening now. So there, it's starting to look as if Abolish may still be in the light. Certainly, Kirsten's still going to be. Oh, jeepers, it's going to be close. She might be in this going slow, but Abolish, not sure where he's going to be. He's going to be in here somewhere. Because of that green highway left to the side. So it's getting very hard to predict. That's sort of 36 hours out. And then we come through to, there's 2 days ahead. So 2 days ahead, there's no question, Abolish is in the breeze. He's hightailing it out here. Simon will get a good kick as well. And I'm not sure where Kirsten's going to be. She could be hanging on to this. If she doesn't, this is where it's going to happen. If she misses out on hooking into this weather here, it's going to be detrimental to her position at the finish, absolutely, because you can see here it's holding there, it's sitting there. this is now coming through till 3 days out. There's 3 days out. Okay, I'm pretty sure at that stage, well, Abolish will be up here, and Kirsten should have made it across. So let's just see what the distances look like there. Yeah, she'll be across. She'll get in. So I think it's still okay. But let's wait and see what happens. It's very hard to predict some of that. And just for the hell of it, we are going to go for the big picture. Then we're done. We can see what's going on. So the 16th, and we're coming into the 17th now. It's 4 days ahead. 4 days ahead, and there's still a distinct highway here. Everyone that's got into it will be in relative position, still heading up in a northeasterly direction. That's kind of nice. So that's day 4, and then we go through to day 5. Here we go. It's starting to get light and fluffy and confused a bit, but they'll be coming through the Azores by then. And then you can start to see this easterly breeze starting to come out of the Bay of Biscay. So they wouldn't want to be there, but I think they're going to be here anyway. And this is going to be nerve-wracking again. There's going to be some winners and losers in all this lot for sure. It's too hard to predict, but it's interesting to watch what the long-range forecast is. Big holes, bit of breeze, fluky. I think the pressure's going to be on all the way, and there's no way to get into Bay of Biscay if Abolish was up there that quick. And I don't think he will be, because it's quite a long way to go. 1,200 miles, and this is on day. This is the 20th. So 7 days, 1,200 miles. He won't be there yet. He's going to be down here. So everyone's going to be still moving towards that. And is it going to open? If that opens and turns, Abolish could. No, it's not turning yet. So. And it's going to suck out for a while and go light. Ooh, boy. Going to be fun ahead. Anyway, that's all I can show you for now. And I'm just quickly going to scan through here. Question: how come Ian made a 180 turn on the April the 9th to switch from his northwest course to southeast course? That could have been just, I got to think of the dates, what was happening then. You would have noticed the boat wasn't moving very fast, and the mast was in the water. We still don't know whether he cleared the mast away. So that acts like a huge sea anchor. It stops the boat moving forward, and when that happens, of course, you're affected by the currents and things like that. So he wasn't doing anything. It's just the drift motion of the boat. He wasn't going anywhere. If that's the right date, I can't remember what that is, unless it was when the front was coming through. I'm losing track of time, sorry. He, of course, went northeast, and from his northwesterly course to northeasterly course. So that was the very beginning. The wind was basically coming north, and he had the option. You can go northeast or northwest, and he decided to go northwest. But he could only do that for a few hours, because then the wind came from the northwest and he had to turn around. Sorry, I can understand the timeline there. Morning, Paul. For measuring distance, it's better to put the marker on the stern of the boat, as the marker is also on the stern railing. Cheapest, we're not worried about a meter or so, but I always tend to put them on both on the bow. It's a relative distance. Boat for boat. So if I've got it on both bows, it's pretty similar. And it's not meant to be definitive. It's meant to be indicative, an indication, not a definition of the distance apart. Joe Trainer, we will find out later, I'm sure, but compared to the amount of shipping containers floating semi-submerged, I don't think there is a huge danger for Ian's yacht. Maybe it can be salvaged. Yes and no. There's a yacht already watching there to make sure they don't hit it. It's not a good thing to leave the boat drifting. In fact, I'll tell you something right now. We've decided that in the notice of race, we will put a commitment and a declaration from all entrants that if they abandon their boat, unless there is a given salvage plan, they must scuttle the boat. There are various reasons for that, and we want it to be accepted that that's a principle for GGR. It happens in some other Transocean events as well. And generally, it's not considered a good thing to leave a boat drifting. Anyway, and of course, if there is an opportunity to salvage, that's another story. But when you're 1,200 miles off the coast of Brazil, it's not good. And this is no reflection on Ian, of course, because he just simply didn't have time apparently. But we'll learn more about that later. But it is an interesting subject. And Mark, does the shape of the ship's stern make deploying a drogue more difficult or challenging with the hydrovane, or the hydrovane more prone to damage based on the shape of the stern? Got nothing to do with it at all. There is always a risk when you put lines over the back of the boat that you might interact with a wind vane, doesn't matter what brand or anything like that. But the key is the whole principle of the the whole principle of a drogue is to create drag and resistance. Okay. And for that, got to be big winds, the boat moving down through the seas, and you want to hold the stern out. So as soon as you put the drogue out, or even warps, it's very challenging because they just rip out really fast because they're creating drag, and you've got to control the rate it goes out and so on. And then the idea is, if there's tension on the stern all the time, then it'll stay clear of whatever wind vane you've got on the back. Now, sometimes with surging and breaking waves, there'll be a bit of pull and back and forwards. But if you've got warps out the back, for instance, there's stretch in the rope, but the tension's always there, and it doesn't get a chance to come back and interact with with whatever's hanging off the back of the boat. If you start to slow down, okay, if the wind's dropping off, it's very important you get that drogue or the warps in as the resistance decreases, and you don't need it then anyway. If there's no wind to push the boat away and you're not interested in holding the stern out, then you should be pulling your drogue in. And that was the case with Ian. He was doing 1.5 knots, just wallowing and so on, and he had the drogue over the back. And of course, it was only natural that something's going to hook up when the boat moving, and that's happened to other boats as well. So it's something that you learn and gain with experience. And unfortunately, Ian had the problem going around Cape Horn, and that made him a bit cautious this time around as well. So it's a speed factor. You got to keep the pressure on the drogue, and if it's not there, then you can't do it. Okay, good afternoon. I think that's all. With Puffin's tracker still broadcasting, Puffin is still afloat. Do you know the responsibility of anyone under maritime law to address the collision risk? No, there's no liability of a person, in my opinion. There's no liability of a person. It was an accident, okay? It wasn't meant to happen. And the situation at the time that Ian got off the boat, if he didn't have a chance to scuttle it, he didn't have a chance to scuttle it. So that would be a reasonable defence. I presume Ian was too badly injured or open sea clock. Well, we don't know. Responsible for the rest of unmanned, but afloat. But is that sufficient to absolve him? Yes, in my opinion, it is. It's an accident, and you can only do certain things at the scene of an accident. And he might have had a plan, but didn't get a chance to put it into effect, and so on. So I'm not too fussed on that one. But as I've said, it is a good thing to scuttle the boat. Good morning from Finland. Morning. Thanks, Don. Evening, morning. Buenos dias. You answered my scuttle question. It's nice to see it floating. Yep, it is and it isn't. Karen, thanks, Don, for all your reports. Ian safe now. I've learnt so much. No more questions. I don't want these morning sessions to go on forever, but I'm happy to answer questions specific to the tracker in future. And we will still do the main question answers coming up on YouTube this weekend. So you'll see that come up tomorrow or Friday. So stick your questions there if you've got any more. Thanks for that, and we'll see you tomorrow.